situation. And so today, what I want us to do is we're going to look at different circumferences that we're in. And this obviously, God opened up a really dramatic opportunity for Charlie to step into that. And may God also allow us to do that when we are sensitive to the people that we work around. So again, thinking about Paul's example, that his circumstances were used for the greater progress of the gospel. And so in some cases it may be, may God open up a great opportunity like that. In some cases it's taking small steps. So I'd like, Stan, why don't you come on up? Stan's going to share with us some of his story today. And you're going to make sure I say your name right again?
Terwilliger.
Terwilliger. So Stan Terwilliger. And I've met Stan probably 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Claude is back here. Claude, raise your hand. Claude is was in the Air Force and then in civil service for some years.
35 years.
And 35 years. And he has a story of himself of how God used him in the workplace. And now he's an associate pastor at Lavernia, Grace Bible Church in Lavernia. And we've been partnering up with some things in Lavernia once a month, which has been lots of fun. And so Stan, I met Stan through that. And so, Stan, why don't you just share a little bit about what your work, what kind of work have you done in the past? What kind of work experience?
I worked in oil and gas for an E&P company, and my expertise, I guess, for lack of better words, was rigs. I was the superintendent in the workover end of rigs. I've done drill and completion, all my yards, but my last tour was basically as a workover superintendent for an oil and gas company.
So what did you enjoy about that the most, or what did you like least about it?
The whole aspect of oil and gas, of course, it's always so up and down. It's feast and famine. So that's a little less appealing at times. The layoffs and the pickups and ramp ups and that kind of stuff is a little daunting for families.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little rough. I love the opportunity to get to know folks on a family basis, and so I've always considered my work group as basically my family, my extension of my family. So I really love that aspect of it. We're very close knit.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Troy's talking about, having your
Mm-hmm.
kind of new neighborhood as the workplace.
It
right?
is, yes, definitely.
Well, and in that, you met a fellow by the name of James.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about your relationship with James?
James was, he's a man's man. James is a great man in my book. I tear up a little bit, but
That's welcome here, so we appreciate it. That shows your real care.
James was he was a high school athlete. James was went on to play college ball. He ran halfback for a D2 school and did very well. But James was a mentor and a friend as well. I met James through my wife, actually, because they had a relationship through her work and through James's work. And so first met James and got to know him a little bit. And then the company that I was working for was purchased by the company that he was working for, and he ended up being my supervisor.
Okay.
And as time went along, I was promoted into a peer situation with James, and so we got to work together on a lot of projects, a lot of fun.
So when this company purchase happened, what was your relationship with him like? Was it, did y'all hang out together, or?
It was a boss subordinate relationship. I mean, James was always very welcoming. His door was always open if I needed to go in and talk and that situation. So it wasn't a huge friendship relationship, but he was a caring boss, and so I appreciated that with him. So.
Well, I think you shared with me there was a time when the relationship really kind of escalated.
Mm-hmm.
And were you guys driving the truck together or something? Or what?
Yeah, we had several meetings, and we were talking about ramping down, and so at this point in time, it come a point where we had to talk real talk about people. I was working as that superintendent, so as his peer. And so we had to have conversations around people, and I noticed James wasn't James. I noticed James was very, very angry, very confrontational with me. And
More so than normal?
And yeah, more so than normal. And at this point, we had become friends. We had shared a lot of our family details together, and our families have got to know each other. His middle daughter, as a matter of fact, invited me to her graduation, and she was heavily involved in the church that I was attending at that time. And James was a casual goer at the church, you know, but she was real involved, and so she would just brighten my day, you know. She goes, I just love you, man, you know, and she's just a real upbeat little girl. So the relationship started to grow there, and I noticed James was struggling. And so we had gone to a meeting, and he says, hey, can I ride back with you? And I go, sure, that'd be great. And so he was riding back with me, and kind of quiet, just to the point. And James is a color guy. You got to understand, James has a wife and 3 daughters, and so he had to know color. There was no black and white, this is the way it is. It was color, everything was color. And so James was a color guy, and so our conversation was just to the point. It was just matter-of-factly, you know. And I was like, and I said, dude, what is wrong with you? You know, what's going on? And we had just pulled in the parking lot, and I said, man, I said, you know, are you angry with me? Have I done something to offend you, or is there an issue? Do we need to straighten something out here? And he started crying. You got to understand, James about 213 pounds, shoulders about this wide, just like I said, a man's man. And he goes, I just found out I have melanoma cancer, and I am scared. I am so scared. And tears are running, I'm crying. And I said, bud, I said, you're going to be fine. I know you're going to be fine. And then I reached over and I grabbed him, and he just melted like a little kid. And so I pulled him into me, and I said, let me pray for you right now. And I prayed, and he's all like, thanks, man, you know, appreciate it. And so we become really, really tight after that. He would come down to my office, shut the door, sit down, and say, I need to talk. And we would talk.
Well, he just kind of pours his heart out.
He poured out his heart and his fears, his reality with his walk with Christ. He knew that he knows the Lord, but he doesn't know the Lord. And he told me, he said, you know, because I told him, I said, I respect you as a mentor in this position. And he goes, you know, he says, it's amazing, even though you respect me as the mentor, he said, I respect you as the mentor. He goes, you're my spiritual compass.
Wow.
And I said that, you know, very daunting at that point. So,
Yeah, so there were some things that started happening in your relationship with him that were pretty dramatic in a sense. So why don't you share a little about some things that happened after that didn't through your relationship?
So he had, like I said, he come to understand that his walk with Christ wasn't where he wanted it to be. And as we talked and as we would visit, he come in one day and he goes, hey, he said, my wife and my daughters and I were having a conversation, and we realized that we have not been baptized. And he goes, and we want to do this. And he explained to me how he wanted to do it. James had about 20 acres down right next to the river in Farmington, or actually Cedar Hill, where I grew up. And he goes, I want to have me and my family baptized together in the river by my house. And I said, wow, that is so awesome. And he goes, well, my daughters got married there. I have just so many memories of this place that it's very special to me. And I go, man, that is so cool. I said, let me know, and I would love to come and just encourage you. And he goes, no, you don't understand. He goes, I would like for you to baptize me.
Wow.
And of course, and he's crying, and I'm crying, and we're just in, and I said, oh my gosh. And I go, yeah, I said, I would love to. I said, you know, and he goes, my family, they love you, and so they want to share this experience. So we get there that afternoon, we're doing it. And it was August, and he had T-shirts made up with the date and a cross.
Wow.
And we all put our T-shirts on. And we all went to the river. And as I'm talking and I'm baptizing and I'm crying and the girls are crying and James is crying and everybody's crying and my associate pastor, he went with us and he's crying and you know, and we're just all having such a time. And he goes, hey, he goes, my father-in-law hasn't been baptized. Would you mind baptizing him as well? And I said, sure. So he came down in the river. And you know, we're just having a time. So anyway, to make a long story short, James gave me that opportunity. It was such a blessing to me.
Yeah.
I got the opportunity at his daughter's wedding to say the blessing with the meal and to bless them as well. And so the family relationship that was birthed out of a business casual relationship was amazing.
That's a great story. This is encouragement to me to see how just in the flow of life, you couldn't have orchestrated that.
No, sir.
I mean, it's God used your circumstances for the greater progress of the gospel.
Yes,
and it's just so encouraging to see when God puts us in those situations. And you notice that the pivotal thing that happened there, what's going on with you, dude? Did you catch that? Asked one question. Just asked one question. And I'm kind of wondering, how many questions have I missed asking? And what questions do I need to be asking that could turn a whole situation different?
But he had developed a relationship with them.
Yes, sir.
He trusted you.
Yes,
He trusted you to be able to share his heart and to pick up in the middle of a parking lot at work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God opened up a whole new realm for that.
He lives in North Dakota now, and I live in South Texas now, and we still have conversation. We still check on each other.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
that's awesome. Well, let's give Stan a hand for you know, some stories just need to be heard again, don't they? You know, and that's what's so great about what we get to do here is to hear the stories, because it's not just something that's static. We get to see God working inside people, in other people's lives, and hear that. And I want to share another one with you. She doesn't want to come up front, but Marcia will stand up. And Marcia is a dear friend of mine and has been a co-worker. She is the property manager in the real estate company that I'm involved in. And I guess probably about a year ago, probably about a year ago, we had a Kingdom Connection here. And with Shane and Bill Brinston, some of you may have been here for that one. And so there was a scenario that happened in their story where Bill, who was a believer, came into Shane's office on a Monday morning and invited him to a conference room and said, can we meet in the conference room? And so they went in there, and Bill basically says, I'd like to pray for our company. And Shane, who wasn't of faith at that point, said, okay. And he said, well, I feel like God's telling me that he wants me to pray with you for the company. Shane's like, okay, this is a little weird. And so it started a pathway of a relationship where Shane eventually embraced his faith, and it changed the dimension. Well, the day before the breakfast, was it the day before the breakfast? Or, yeah. Marcia had one of the fellows that works for her come into her office, and he asked for something that she could tell something was going on in his life. And so they had a conversation that day. The next day she came to the breakfast, and after she left the breakfast, that dialogue of what would the Lord have me do in this situation? So why don't you share a little bit about kind of what happened in the scenario?
Yeah, so at the breakfast, I just felt the story touched me in a sense that this person had been on my heart anyway, and I had some real concerns about the conversation we had had, so I just felt God telling me that I needed to pray for him or with him. So after the breakfast, I was on my way to work, and I just felt compelled to call him and invite him to coffee that day. So I asked him to go and have coffee with me that afternoon.
Which you've never done this before.
Which I've never done before, right. And he said, okay. And so I said, well, I'll meet you at Starbucks, and we decided on a time. And in the course of, from that time to when we were supposed to meet, he called me on several occasions and said, no, I don't think we need to get together. Well, you know, what is this all about? And I think, I don't even remember if he expressed it, but I knew that he was thinking, am I going to get fired? You know? And so I said, no, I just want to sit and talk with you and just connect with you. And he said, okay. And so I'm actually in the parking lot, ready to walk in.
He's called you like 3 times,
Right.
right? He's called 3 times saying, we really don't have to meet.
Right.
So he pulls up
Right.
in the parking lot.
So I'm in the parking lot, and he calls me again, and he said, I just don't know why we need to meet. We don't really have anything we need to talk about. I said, no, I really want to talk, and for us to sit down and just talk about things.
Actually, I have to share.
Yeah.
He called her one time and said, are you trying to sell me Amway?
Yeah. And I said, no.
So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I said, no, I just want to have coffee with you. And so he goes, okay. He was actually just pulling in. So we sat down, we talked for just a little bit, and I could tell he was nervous, so I was trying to make him a little bit more comfortable. And then I basically said I would like to pray with you. And that it had been on my mind and on my heart that I had some concerns about you after our conversation, and I just wanted to pray with you. And he started crying, and it meant a lot to him. And immediately, the fear and all of that kind of fell away. And we just had a great conversation. And after prayer, he talked about his faith, and it was a good thing for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like I moved in.
Yeah.
And Marcia, why didn't you do that in the office? Why did you choose the route that you went?
Well, I just felt like in the office it was more of a work environment, and I wanted it to be a personal setting, and I wanted him to be comfortable. I didn't think that if I asked him to come in my office and shut the door, he'd really think he's getting fired or something. So I just really wanted him to be comfortable, and for us to be able to have that one-on-one conversation without the work environment.
Yeah, so isn't that just a beautiful how she orchestrated her life to make it more comfortable for him to experience how she really cared for him. And isn't that just a great picture of how Christ comes into our life? He does things to meet us where we are. And so for her to not sit at a desk as a supervisor with a, quote, subordinate, puts people at a different level. And so she equalized that. She basically took off her manager hat and said, I'm a human being, you're a human being, and I care about you. And so it definitely took, Marcia has a very, very heavy workload. I witnessed it. And she took time out of her day to do that. And I remember Henry Nouwen making a comment one time. He said, I used to look at interruptions in my life as inconveniences, but now I look at interruptions as my opportunities to minister. And boy, do I need to hear that, because I'm a schedule guy, and I can easily go by people all day long and not connect with, hey dude, what's going on? So you're going to have a time at your table just to talk about that. So Matter of fact, if you're only a couple, why don't you come and get to another table? And your table host has some discussion questions for you to go over, and then we'll convene back in a few minutes.
Nice meeting you.